stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. May we bow in an attitude of prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we say thank you for the night of rest and for the opportunity to be present here this morning. It's another beautiful day in Washington County, and we can just say thank you for that. Lord, direct us, guide us, use us for service to others. Lord, may we do so with civility and a kind heart and a care for others first and foremost. We pray for our students and our teachers in our public school system today. We just lift them up, pray for their well-being, their safety, and encourage them, give them strength, and watch over them, we pray. We ask these things in thy precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. And we do not have any minutes this morning to approve. Okay. So with that, we'll move right into commissioners' reports and comments. And Randy's looking at me. You want to go first?
No, I don't really care, but I'll go first. I don't have much this morning. Good morning. The only two things that I want to mention is there's a lot going on, but former Governor Hogan was at the Sheriff's Department this week. We went out and greeted him. He was receiving the endorsement of our local FOP, Fraternal Order of Police. That was a nice gathering, and I think he was headed to Western Maryland then. But right after that, we did go to the Boys and Girls Club. And if you haven't seen that building on Pennsylvania Avenue, it's coming along really well. We had a beam signing ceremony, and the former Governor Hogan was instrumental in funding this new building that the Boys and Girls Club needed. So anyway, I want to thank everybody at the Sheriff's Department, the FOP, Boys and Girls Club, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Keeper?
I have nothing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Don't have much. I just want to recognize that we had Columbus Day yesterday, and I think he was an important figure, a transformative figure, and I'm glad that we celebrate Columbus Day, even though we don't have an actual holiday here on the county staff. A lot of places do, including in the federal government. He was imperfect, like many great people are, but he made a tremendous impact on the world. It's also recognized by many as Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's an important item for us to recognize because of the history of our country with tribes. And I've got grandkids and others that are from indigenous tribes, so I recognize that in our family. I think it's an important day. But just like Columbus, who had his flaws, the indigenous people here had their own history and culture, and there's the good, the bad, and the ugly with that, whether it's how they communed with nature and in their spiritual awareness to, other tribes or the Aztecs sacrificing 84,000 people in one commemoration to recommemorate one of their pyramids. Cannibalism and the like was rampant throughout the Central and South Americas, and slavery and other issues were there too. So, nothing is as it seems. We need to learn the history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I would just ask that people think about that when people are pushing different agendas. There's a lot for us to learn. Lastly, when I think about indigenous people, I think right away about the Jewish people in Israel who have reclaimed their homeland. They've never left. They've always been there. It's been their home for 3,000 years. It's the only place, I think, on earth where they've inhabited, a people has inhabited the same place, spoken the same language, maintained the same faith, and they're fighting for their existence today. So I thought about the Jewish people who are one people in the world who've reclaimed their land, their homeland, and I want to acknowledge them for that, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Klein?
Good morning, everyone. I, too, attended the beam signing ceremony at the Boys and Girls Club. That's going to be a phenomenal facility for that neighborhood and for the kids involved. I also, last Tuesday, went down to Williamsport and attended the soft opening of Ruth's Market, Michael Creek and his wife opening up, so good luck and much success to them. I also attended the Big Brothers Big Sisters, their annual dinner where the Starry Night for Kids' Sake was the theme, and they recognized the Big Brother Big Sister of the years. It was a very heartwarming event to see how one individual can take a life and make it better. And I did on Friday evening, attended the Farm Bureau's 101st meeting down with Commissioner Harvey. They elected their officers, and it was good to sit there and hear some of the state officials talk about how Washington County has been helping agriculture with many bills and things that have been in place. And then on October 12th was the 24th year after two of our citizens were murdered by terrorists on the USS Cole, Craig Wibberley and Patrick Roy. I was there at gravesite with the family, and again, and especially today more than ever, lest we forget that incident, that two local lives and others were lost due to a terrorist attack. That concludes my report.
You mentioned Starry Nights?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
You
Okay.
and Josh said yes.
Yes,
You were there
okay.
as well.
Yep, thank you. Yes, very busy week as usual. A couple things. First and foremost, I hung a T-shirt out here. Governor Moore has appointed me to a commission, a statewide commission on service and volunteerism, and we had one of our board meetings last week and presented with an exclusive T-shirt. And I just reach out because the governor's investiture with turning communities around and building from the bottom up with service and volunteerism, and it's working very well. We've got a lot of AmeriCorps participants and recipients. And we even have a group here in Hagerstown that are part of the service and volunteerism, and it's working with youth to teach them to serve and to serve others and to be mindful of the community around them. So just wanted to display that a little bit. Did attend the Starry Nights for Youth, and hats off to them. A very nice fundraiser. Also, on Saturday evening was very special. Started out with a 23rd induction of the Hagerstown Community College Athletic Hall of Fame. Very nice affair. And the emphasis over the years historically for HCC has been first and foremost education. You have to have your academics up to score or up to snuff, or you can't participate in the sports, and they make that very, very clear. And what every one of these recipients that were inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame on Saturday night commented was they were so appreciative that HCC has stand firm to their foundation of academics first, athletics second, and it's served them very well after they got out of athletics due to injuries, age, whatever it may be. Their professional and career and their working career, they appreciate what education they have. So that was a very nice event. Left there, hustled to the first concert of the 40th season of the Maryland Symphony Orchestra, and I think that's significant for our area. I've been known to repeat that how fortunate we are. We have the Maryland Symphony Orchestra home here for the past 40 years. We're not certainly the state capital. We're not certainly the largest municipality, but between our community, the hardworking folks in our community that brought the symphony here 40 years ago, and the hard work, the endowments and fundraisers to keep them here, and of course, home at the Maryland Theater is just phenomenal. And on Saturday night, the opening concert, there was a young man by the name of Maxim Landau. Don't know where Maxim's from. 22 years old, could play the piano like no one I've ever heard before. It was a standing ovation, continues for about 5 minutes at the conclusion of the concert on Saturday night. It was just exceptional. One other thing over the weekend, I know that this is a little off the cuff, but I had the opportunity to attend St. John's UCC Church in Clear Spring, and I know Dan's back there, we were there, and it was Kids Take Over the Church Sunday. And if you wanted to see something rather remarkable, from the littlest ones that could just barely walk up the aisle, they all participated, they were all involved. A 14-year-old freshman in high school gave a joint sermon with the pastor. It was something to be there, to be very proud of. And excuse me, you see young children that are doing quite well, learning how to interact, how to read, how to participate. And on the way home, my daughter, who's 40, looked at me and she goes, "Dad, I never talked publicly in a public setting until I was like in college." She goes, these children stood up in front of people and, participated in public speaking. So they're well on their way to a bright future and a bright career. So looking ahead, one thing, I don't know that it's on our immediate sheet, but save the date, Friday, December the 6th is the annual Feast and Frolic fundraiser for the University of Maryland, downtown Hagerstown, right down the street. So that is Friday, December the 6th. Other upcoming events, the Chamber October Bash is this Thursday, the 17th at 5 p.m. at Middletown Valley Bank out on the Eastern and Professional Court. Grand opening of Opethike Dujardin, I think I pronounced that correctly, is Friday, October the 18th up at 2 p.m. up at Building 307 at Cascade. Cascade Town Center is doing well. They're bringing other businesses in and renovating those buildings and doing quite well up at Cascade, and we wish them well in all that they do. The 35th Annual Breast Cancer Awareness Step and Stride event is this Saturday, 9 a.m. at HCC. LifeNet 81 15-year anniversary event this Sunday, the 20th at 3 p.m., and that is at the large aircraft hangar 26 and the grill at Runways. Grand opening of Plant the Seeds, which is Monday the 21st, and that is at 22 North Mulberry Street. Grand opening of Bale and Bagels and Bale and Cask and Kettle right down the street at the old Up to Graft building that's been completely transformed and renovated, 53 West Washington Street. That is on Monday at 11 a.m. And last but not least, please don't forget, next Tuesday evening is our joint meeting as commissioners with the town of Clear Spring at 6 p.m. Clear Spring Town Hall. So I think that's pretty well. Did I miss anything, guys? So with that, we'll move right on to staff comments, and I guess Michelle.
All right, thank you. Have a couple of things here. First thing I wanted to let you know is that Brian Lohman, our emergency management department, has been deployed to Tampa, Florida as part of the Maryland Incident Management Team. He is assisting with EOC operations in Tampa, Florida. Last week, I did attend the Mako County Administrators Conference. As part of that conference, I took a tour of Worcester County and saw some of the economic development that they have going on there towards some of the businesses in the area. As part of the conference, we had our county administrators meeting. We talked about various items that are coming up in the 2024 legislative sessions. Some of those things included potential changes to cannabis distribution. The state is attempting to change the allocation of the 9% sales tax to retain 50% of that for themselves. So we talked about that and potential uses of the funding received so far. We'll get into that in more detail with the commissioners as we bring forward an ordinance with staff recommendations for uses. We talked about Blueprint for Maryland funding challenges, that those challenges are being felt across the state. Some of the topics surrounding that were around how the funding formula just doesn't seem to work, even though localities, including Washington County, fund schools above maintenance of effort, that those funds are still insufficient to fund each of the pillars included in the Blueprint. Talked about how much of this is considered to be state overreach. It's forcing funding to follow the students, and it's causing shortages of staffing and other resources as those resources shift to schools in the inner parts of the city. It's causing shortages of funding for operations for the schools that are not in areas of poverty. It's causing school level shortages. They are looking for flexibility per district instead of the one-size-fit-all plan that the Blueprint for Funding calls for, asking to add legislation to our legislative items for fiscal year 20, for the upcoming legislative session. Some of the other things that they talked about related to the Blueprint indicate that the data doesn't always support what is actually leading to student success and achievement. So they're asking for additional data to help support the pillars, and the Blueprint for Funding doesn't address behavioral issues adequately. Another topic that was discussed at great length surrounded solar. There is new legislation coming, and they're working on preemptive positions to counter this bad legislation, proposing a CPC or compensatory preservation area or fee to increase the pot of money that we have for ag preservation in the form of assessment on new solar farms based on the size of that solar farm. The new legislation places solar farms in competition with our MRGA and prevents growth of towns. So they are suggesting that we include language that allows for brownfields, solar farms on brownfields only in MRGA instead of allowing solar farms anywhere in the MRGA. There are also questions surrounding funding or bonds for decommissioning these solar farms and who the guarantor is. So they're recommending that we propose that the state be made the guarantor in case one of those companies goes out of business. And last but not least, they are proposing language that would improve livability standards or set some siting standards to require foliage or tree planting setbacks from property lines and things like that. We also had information from two guest speakers, Delegate Hartman and Pat Schroeder of the Office of Senator Carrozza, and they both talked about renewable energy solutions, Blueprint for Funding, juvenile crimes, iGaming and iLottery that's being proposed, and how that will impact tourism across the state. Our next meeting is next week, and that's everything that I have.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is citizens' participation. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment about an issue or issues of county practices and interest. This is not an interactive dialogue or question and answer session. It is solely a time to hear citizens' comments. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. We have citizens here that want to come forward this morning. Carol. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Carol Mowen, President of the Washington County Teachers Association, located on Oak Ridge Drive in Hagerstown. Since 1999, Carolyn Brooks has been a champion for character counts in our community and our local public schools. You may or may not know a bit of history about Ms. Brooks or why she brought the Character Counts program to Washington County. According to the website A Mighty Cause, when her daughter started kindergarten in the 1990s, Ms. Brooks became aware of the change in culture away from respectfulness and civility evidenced by the lack of respect shown to staff by some of the children, and even more shockingly, by the parents of those children. According to the Character Counts program, character is made up of 6 pillars: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. Here's a synopsis of each and what the students learn about them. Trustworthiness. Be honest. Don't deceive, cheat, or steal. Be reliable. Do what you say you'll do. Have the courage to do the right thing. Build a good reputation. Be loyal. Stand by your family, friends, and country. Respect. Treat others with respect and follow the golden rule. Be tolerant of differences. Use good manners, not bad language. Be considerate of the feelings of others. Don't threaten, hurt, or hit anyone. Deal peacefully with anger, insults, and disagreements. Responsibility. Do what you're supposed to do. Persevere. Always do your best. Use self-control. Be self-disciplined. Think before you act, and consider the consequences. Be accountable for your choices. Fairness. Play by the rules. Take turns and share. Be open-minded. Listen to others. Don't take advantage of others, and don't blame others carelessly. Caring. Be kind. Be compassionate, and show you care. Express gratitude. Forgive others. Help people in need. And citizenship. Do your share to make your school and community better. Cooperate. Get involved. Stay informed. Vote. Be a good neighbor. Obey laws and rules. Respect authority, and protect the environment. Through the Character Counts lessons, students have learned why character is important and what it means to have good character. Carolyn Brooks has been a champion of this work for decades. While her good work that you recognized last week has made a significant difference in the lives of thousands of students in the Washington County Public Schools, unfortunately, the need for the Character Counts program remains. Our teachers, paraprofessionals, and administrators can attest to the continued lack of civility in the common culture that continues to impact our work and students' learning every day. Thank you for your vote last week to approve the requested $3,000 in funding for direct expenses related to the annual elementary school recognition of students with great character. And thank you again for your support of Character Counts in every way and every day. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Anyone else? Citizens' participation? Second call. Last call. Okay, hearing none, we'll move right along with the schedule here this morning. Next up is presentation by Gatekeepers of Maryland. Morning, Bill. Morning, Keith.
Thank you.
Do you have extra? Keith, you have extra?
Thank you.
Roll the film.
Go ahead. Do you want to make any opening comments, or you want to just roll right into the
Just
video?
roll right into the film. I think that will set the stage.
Okay, very good.
Getting released can be one of the happiest moments for some. But that joy can quickly fade when the realities of life in the free world take hold. The reality is that most have great fear about facing the world and failure once again. $50 in cash is what you're handed when you're released. You walk out at 5 p.m. Not much seems different. Hopefully, it's different enough to keep you from a repeat performance. You head toward your aunt's house. It's the address you gave case management. You hope she'll let you stay a few nights. Most of your family and friends rejected you after hearing about your trip to prison. As you walk the streets and ride the bus, you see familiar faces from your past. Drug users, dealers, prostitutes. You are confronted by temptation time and time again. You might even be offered the opportunity to make a deal that will increase your startup funding by at least tenfold. Just sell a little crack. When you arrive at your aunt's house, it's already 7 p.m. Only to find out she will not let you stay the night or any night. She makes you a sandwich and sends you on your way. You throw your laundry bag containing your prison possessions over your shoulder and leave. You look around for a place to sleep for the night. Find some bushes and trees in a nearby park that you think you can crawl into and not be seen by the cops. You're hungry, but money is tight. The dollar menu at McDonald's is your lean cuisine. $45 left. It's summertime, and it won't get too cold at night, and it doesn't look like it's gonna rain. An ambulance siren wakes you up at 5 a.m. It's your first morning out, and time for your first parole visit. You can't be late, or you'll get revoked. You're not familiar with the bus system. It takes you 30 minutes to plan your route. One wrong move will cost you time, money, and maybe your freedom. $4, 5 buses, and 3 hours later, you arrive at the parole office just in time. You anxiously wait for 2 hours before you're called in to see your parole officer. He is straightforward and firm about the rules and expectations he has of you. He also informs you you can write a letter to your judge requesting a waiver of your probation and parole fees. It's past lunchtime by the time you leave parole. You are starving. McDonald's again, $36 left. You use the McDonald's bathroom to clean up a bit. You search the neighborhood for a thrift store. No one will hire you wearing the ill-fitting clothes you wore walking out of prison. You find dress pants, a shirt, a tie, and a pair of shoes at the thrift store for $15. $21 left. You are dedicated enough to find a local unemployment center that offers computers to start your job search. Tomorrow, you will hit the streets and fill out applications after you apply for food stamps. You need to find a place to live. No address equals possible parole violation equals bad. You're hungry, but no dinner tonight. You need to conserve money. You head back to the park for the night. The next day is a total waste. You spend another $4 in bus fares, $17 left, and 12 hours in line at the food stamp office. You walk away empty-handed. If only you would have known to arrive when the line started forming at 4 a.m. You have no food stamps and no job, but you're starving. You pick up a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. $13 left. Morale is taking a nosedive as you head back to the park again. You have one clean set of underwear and socks left. The rejection you receive job searching the next day is brutal. The bus ride costs money, and time. $9 left. You find out HR people do not take kindly to felons. One office even had the kindness to escort you out with security guards. You've been out for 4 days. You're not even close to finding a job. Hunger strikes again, and all you can afford is a 99-cent candy bar. $8 left. At the bus stop, on the way back to the park, a former colleague offers you a deal that is hard to refuse. You're an expert at selling dope. Go forward with your $8 or revert to a life of fast money. Which would you choose?
Thank you. Is that it? So I'm Bill Gertner, Executive Director of Gatekeepers, our best reentry program in Washington County, in the state of Maryland, and the United States of America. And we have the trophies and the certificates to prove it. And we're not bragging, but we're very proud because we're here with you people, and some of you know who you are. You've been with Gatekeepers since its inception in one way or another. And I remember the first time I met Jeff. We were at a rally, and he introduced me to the people from AT&T, and from that introduction, we probably placed 400 men and women working there since the 11 years that I started here. And same thing, I look at Attorney Kiefer. He was the president of our Rotary Club when I left prison and came to Hagerstown, and he was right there as a volunteer and looking at Maryland Serves. And I remember how he helped Gatekeepers, get through some of the weeds to get this program off the ground. And we've been here with some of you guys in the past. We came, the state gave us a lot of money a couple years ago to help Washington County returning citizens, and we came to you for a line of credit, and you said, well, if we give you guys a line of credit, every nonprofit in town would be lined up every Tuesday morning. So what you did, you encouraged us to go out and do what we encouraged our people getting out of prison is you got to go suit up yourself. And we went to one bank, and not only did that bank give us a line of credit, all we had to do was sign Gatekeepers. And they come every Saturday, every month to our resource club and talk with our returning citizens about their savings accounts and their banking needs. So there's a lot happening. But we're here not to ask for money. We're here to let you know that Gatekeepers, we work full time for you guys. We've been in the detention center for 10 years. We've been serving there. You people, you back the day reporting center. Gatekeepers have been at the day reporting center every Tuesday ever since the inception, and it works. And so we need to know that Washington County is the home of 400 inmates. Right now, as we speak, there are 380 citizens locked up 15 minutes from here. They're all getting out to Washington County. You saw our film. We raised money about 3 years ago, and That film is a backdrop of a book, and the book is a backdrop of tablets, and the book and the tablets are a backdrop of a program that's in 45 states, and Keith will give you a couple more statistics on that. But so we've been able to leverage what we've done here in Washington County and in the state of Maryland to be very effective with reentry. We're on the Justice Investment Advisory Board, and when we were there with last Thursday night at the reception, a lot of you guys were there. Chris Shank showed up, and it was good to have him back in town because he helped start Gatekeepers when he was Senator Chris Shank, and he's been backing us ever since. We're on the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Board for reentry. We're on the state's Attorney General's list right now. We're going through a year-and-a-half program where we're working on why is there over-incarceration in Maryland, and why does Maryland lock up more African Americans than any other state in the union? And we're deep into several projects with that board. So why are we here again? To prove that we can take ex-offenders and turn their lives around and keep them off the streets. So a lot of the things, and we spoke to the council 2 weeks ago about this very issue. So a lot of the stuff that happened on the streets, it comes from the sober houses, from people who are not from here. It comes from our jail where people are from here, but they get out here with nothing. We saw how someone got out, and that's typical of the state. And a lot of it is typical of our citizens who get out of the detention center. So when they get out, and we have statistics, 2 years ago, last year, 129 men got released from the Washington County Detention Center. They came right to Gatekeepers. And why do they come to Gatekeepers? Because we're inside working with them before they get out, especially if they're from Washington County. And we steer them to our office because we have to work on giving them the basic needs that the state gives us money to do. So I think, and we want you to know that after watching that film, how impactful it is and how it's real. And that the prison system, and as much as they try, and where we very closely work with them, it's a Dead Sea Scrolls. Nothing ever changes. We can't get it right. We can't get the right people working on it. But Washington County is a prison-centric county. We have 3 penitentiaries, and we have a detention center with 400 men and women in it. So we're here to work for you, and we do that. So, Keith will give you a little backdrop.
Good morning. I'm Keith. I first met Bill back in 2010 when we were both locked up at MTC in Baltimore walking the rec yard. So we did a lot of laps in a couple of years, and this is the outgrowth of it. It was the ideas that he had, that he'd come up with, that we turned into a book, that we added those videos to. That digital version is on tablets inside the detention center here, and guys and gals have the opportunity to review it and request hard copies of the book. It's in all the Maryland state prisons around the state. It's also in 45 states around the country and the District of Columbia. So out of Hagerstown, out of what Bill created, and we put some feet on those ideas, we're having an impact, not only here in our community, but in the state and in the country. It's just mind-boggling to think what 2 ex-offenders can do. But that film highlights, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's what we want to try to prevent. We want people to come home and stay home for good. So that's what we're doing. That's kind of been our message the last year or two, is we want to raise community awareness about reentry happens, and you have an organization here in Washington County that helps keep those men and women home for good. People like recidivism statistics. The county, depending on who you talk to, the sheriff says we're somewhere between 19 and 40%. Folks active in our program, embrace our program, we're below 5%. Like this year right now, we're running around 2%. So something in this book, our teaching, and the people's hearts and minds is clicking. and it's keeping them home for good. And that's what we want to keep doing. We're going to keep you guys informed on how that goes and any issues that we run into, but it's an awareness thing. We just want you to know reentry happens, and we're here to help those people stay home for good. Somebody like that in the video, in fact, that guy that's in the video had just gotten out when we filmed it. He's back inside because he made some poor choices. He's looking forward to getting back out and having another shot at it, but he didn't have a plan. We can give him the plan, we can give him the hope, and we can keep him home for good. And now you got somebody that's a returned citizen who's living here, who's voting here, who's shopping here, who's paying taxes here. That's what we want. We want the community to welcome these folks back and give them that opportunity to become good citizens again.
And two of the newest projects that they've been working on, we actually, Gatekeepers, every Friday morning has an office in the parole office here. And if you think about that, 2 ex-felons who've served time in the prison system in the state of Maryland have their own office every Friday in the Washington County Parole Office. So they go, some of the returning citizens go to the parole officer, they send them right to our office on Friday morning, and then Monday morning they come to our office for their basic needs, their phones, et cetera. And one of the things that we have a third meeting in 2 weeks with the new medical school. I have met with them 3 times, and we have sold the idea that this book is going to be part of the community education of the medical students. As they prepare to become physicians, they have to know what's going on in the communities. And I sold them on the fact, just like I'm trying to sell you guys, this is a prison-centric county. We got to do something with these people, so they can't they can't, run the streets. So the medical school is going to partner with Gatekeepers to work with the returning citizens and the people locked up in your detention center. We're very proud of that. And they're going to make an announcement next month. And it's probably, there aren't too many in the United States where medical schools and ex-offenders reentry program are partnering to make a better community.
One of the big things that we do here in the community is every Saturday morning, we hold a resource club meeting at Trinity Lutheran Church from 10 to 11. It's an opportunity for returning citizens to meet with community. We have regular attenders from the community, from housing providers and the Department of Health shows up, CASA, the domestic violence folks show up, employers show up. We're averaging around 70 or 80 people showing up every Saturday morning, and you all are more than welcome anytime to drop in and just see what we do. Catch the flavor, catch the fun, because it's a safe place for folks. Bill will routinely ask them, how many people have been locked up? And 90% of the crowd raises their hand. It's a family, and it's a safe environment where they feel loved and cared for, and they get the resources they need. People show up at 9:30 and they start talking to everybody else in the meeting. They stay at the end till like 11:30 and they keep talking. MVA comes in about once a month to help out with ID and driver's license issues. This last month, she came in, Maureen did 36 people and helped them with some other ID and driver's license issues. We've got Medicaid coming in once a month to review people's Medicaid status. So we're trying to corral the resources that are available here in the county and in the state to help these people stay home for good.
And Commissioner Barr has been there a couple times. We appreciate that. And the political people who come, right now this is our 3rd week of just talking about our pets of the week. They're donkeys and elephants. So we're teaching them how to vote using pets. So we're committed to that.
We do have a weekly news blast we put out. If any of you are interested, let me know what your email address is, and we can get you on the distribution for that.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Oh, very informative. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate what all you do. Okay, next up is the 9:45. We're good to go. Okay. Next up is a public hearing. This is a public hearing concerning the application for zoning map amendment RZ-24-002. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the proposed map amendment. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. Would anyone who will testify today please stand for the oath?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that the responses given and statements made will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Okay. At this time, I'd like Travis Allen, Senior Planner, Department of Planning and Zoning, will now introduce the matter. Travis?
Good morning, everyone. Travis Allen, Senior Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. We're here to take public comment and testimony on piecemeal rezoning map amendment RZ 24-002. The applicants, John and Lisa Haltman, are looking to apply the rural business floating zone atop the existing agricultural rural zoning on 6.82 acres of land at 12635 Flying Duck Lane, just outside of Clear Spring. The purpose of the rural business zoning district is to permit the continuation and development of businesses that support the ag industry and farming community, serve the needs of the rural residential population, provide for recreation and tourism opportunities, and to establish locations for businesses and facilities not otherwise permitted in rural areas of the county. It is established as a floating zone that may be located on any parcel in an agricultural, environmental conservation, preservation, or rural village zoning district. Floating zone is one in which specific conditions must be met prior to that being applied to an existing piece of land. Those conditions are defined in Section 5E of the zoning ordinance. It states that the proposed RB district should not be located within any designated growth area, that the property should have safe and usable road access, that on-site issues such as water, sewer, stormwater management, et cetera, should be able to be adequately addressed during site planning, and that the location of an RB district should not be incompatible with existing land uses, cultural or historic resources, or ag preservation efforts in the vicinity of the proposed district. That section of the ordinance also notes that the roads providing access to the site should be able to serve business-related traffic generated by the proposed use. There should be adequate site distance provided at points of access to the site, and that the proposed land use should not be of a scale, intensity, or character that would be incompatible with adjacent land uses or structures. As part of application materials submitted with this request, the applicant submitted a preliminary site plan to address many of the criteria just previously mentioned. The approval or potential approval of an RB district is then only for the use or uses identified on that site plan and the application materials. So any changes in the future to the use, intensity, or area covered by the district would have to be later reviewed by the Planning Commission, potentially triggering a new public hearing in the future. Before any further development would occur on the parcel related to this potential zoning change, it's likely that either a site plan or a grading plan would be reviewed by the county prior to that development occurring. This application was routed out to several outside reviewing agencies for their review and comment on it. The most substantive comment came from the liaison to the Historic District Commission. Being located along the historic National Road, there is 13 existing historic sites within a half-mile of this property, including one surveyed historic site on the property itself. The Haltman Farm is a mid-19th century farm complex with several different contributing structures to that surveyed property. Liaison to the Historic District Commission noted in her comments that the HDC does not comment on the use of the property, However, I noted that the structures and area proposed for the RB uses are not directly adjacent to the historic structures and would appear to have minimal impacts on them should this rezoning be approved. Finally, to get to staff's analysis and recommendation for this application, I want to begin just by stating again that the approval of the RB district is only for the uses identified on the application and the site plan. So the board should closely consider the compatibility of all the proposed uses mentioned in the application to meet the intended purpose of the RB zoning district. Having looked at this application a little bit further with the zoning portion of our department, it was their opinion that the land uses on this property previously allowed either by right or special exception on the property would include the agricultural operation, the moderate volume mineral extraction operation, and a greenhouse, potentially as well too the produce stand on the property. I'll let the applicant talk a little bit more about that one. That would then leave, in terms of land uses, either existing or proposed on this parcel, that would fall within the area slated to receive the RB floating zone. Not previously allowed by right or special exception would include the wood planer shop, the ag equipment rental, the wood stove sales, and the newly proposed cemetery monument sales. It is staff's opinion that the establishment of the floating zone on this property would offer a path forward to comprehensively bring all of these various active or proposed businesses operating on the parcel into legal conformance with zoning regulations. Without that RB district in place, the owner would have to seek individual special exceptions for some of the land uses occurring, such as the ag equipment rental, as not all of those are allowed by right under the current AR zoning. Again, if further development were to happen in the future, modern site planning regulations would then bring those areas of the site into conformance with modern land use planning, such as stormwater management for those potentially newly developed areas. We did, of course, send out letters to many property owners in the vicinity of this potential rezoning. In the aftermath of those letters being sent out, we did not receive any official comments either for or against this proposed rezoning. Finally, I'd just like to state that the Planning Commission did unanimously recommend for approval at their September 9th meeting when reviewing this application.
Okay, thank you, Travis. We will now open the hearing for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment, Fred, come on down.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Fred Frederick. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor, president of Frederick Seibert and Associates. My address is 128 South Potomac Street, Hagerstown, Maryland. And today I represent John and Lisa Halteman. And you just heard Travis do a very good analysis of this site. And at the very end, he basically told you why we're here, to bring all of these different uses that many of them have been occurring there on this site for many years into conformancy. So we're trying to clean this up and do it right. And there's one new use that is being proposed, and that's why when I started on this some time ago and I went to staff, they suggested that we do this and clean it up and do the RB overlay. The subject parcel is 50.28 acres, of which only 6.82 acres is the subject of this RB overlay request. John and family also own 210 additional acres of farm ag property around this 50-acre site. The purpose of this request is to bring all the uses occurring on this site under the RB overlay. Those uses include the roadside stand, ag equipment rentals, the outdoor wood stove sales. He doesn't do regular wood stoves, just the outdoor wood stove sales, wood planer business, and the new business, which is what prompted all this, and that's the cemetery headstones memorials business. There's a great need for that. Many of you may know there was one in Greencastle that closed up. There's another one that there's an elderly man running, and he is getting ready to retire, and he's kind of helping John start his business. John's farm is located almost immediately adjacent to St. Paul Cemetery. And oddly, that's what kind of started this. Somebody stopped in at his farm and said, do you know where we could get a headstone? And they saw this as an opportunity based on some things that were happening, and this gentleman who was closing his business, helping John. This was a great opportunity for John. Now, I'll say one thing about the headstone business. None of us are rushing to go ahead and get that headstone, probably. It's something that occurs when an event occurs, like our passing away. And so this doesn't generate a lot of traffic. We don't have 100 headstone examples sitting out there. They'll have just a couple, but most of it is done. They'll make an appointment with John's wife, who will run this business. And most of these businesses on this farm are run by family members. And they'll come in and they'll look at her screen and they can pick out all these different things. Then she'll order it. John is going to do the engraving on it. And then John is actually setting these headstones. And since he started doing this, more and more people have come to him and said, our parents' headstone is leaning or falling apart or whatever, and it's opening up a lot more work for John, who lives on this farm, you know, to do this. And there's a need for it, and there's not a lot of people out there doing it. No new construction is proposed by this RB overlay request. This farm, like many farms, has multiple buildings on it for farming. Most of these businesses grew out of the farming business. This is very, very common. Most farmers are capable and do more than just farming. I know some who do blacksmithing, welding, small and large engine repair, furniture refinishing, and other small sideline businesses. So what is happening on this farm is very, very common. The planning staff recommended that we pursue this RB overlay. That's why we're before you today. I think at the summation of Travis's presentation, they basically support it. We took it before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission supports this RB overlay. So that is our case, and we thank you for hearing us today. And if you have any questions, John and I are available to answer them.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Anyone else? I know only Fred had sworn in, but anyone else want to speak this morning, for or against? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Your thoughts, commissioners?
I was on the Planning Commission when this was presented, still am actually. I mean, it was pretty cut and dry. I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. It's not hurting any historical features. It's not intrusive to the neighborhood. And I think the biggest point for me was if you pursued every one of those separately, you'd have to get special exceptions. We just make it too hard on people sometimes. So, and this is one case, so I think you'd be making it really a hardship to have to pursue those things with special exceptions. So, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Consensus, is that?
So if I understand it right, I don't have a particular.
Do we need to close the hearing?
Yeah, we need to close, close public comment.
After our
Yeah, close
discussion.
Public comment first.
Okay, well, okay, at this point, the public hearing is now concluded, and commissioners continue to discuss.
I don't have to say all that again, do I? No. Okay, go ahead.
So, as I understand it, and what we've heard is this is correcting something that's already occurred. Okay, so, and there's, how often I wonder how often does this happen, that people start a business and then they come in and say,
I don't think it's that often. This is sort of an exception where I see where it's not a intrusive type of business. It's not a, jackhammer factory next door.
No, I see that. These are all small in scale and scope, and I don't have a problem with it at this point in time. I'm just curious about, the businesses that have been going on. They started it, and, they didn't go through the right procedures, I guess. And the monument business is going to remain small. not become a large regional enterprise or anything, I guess. So I don't particularly have an issue. I do wonder about, I understand the corrective measure, but, you know, where does this go? Future businesses will have to come back in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's written on a clean slate. If zoning or planning could answer that.
We make it rural business and other things.
This triggered, this is why this is here, something triggered it.
Yeah.
And it's,
But once it's rural business, changing the zoning, then it opens the door for other applications.
it's an overlay on the zoning, which it's, so it was first vetted with the planning commission, now we have the final say.
Yeah.
So I think there's some checks and balances there. I mean, the planning commission hopefully would have figured, the night I was there and we did this, we would have figured out right away if it was a bad thing, I think.
Okay.
So.
Commissioner Harvey, if I could just, I think, maybe respond to your question, and Travis is coming up too. The rural business overlay is tied to specific uses that are applied for by the applicant. It doesn't necessarily open all the possible uses up, but they would have to come in and seek approval for a change in those uses.
It's supposed to be tied to agriculture though still, right?
Yes, it still has to meet the requirements for the RB overlay.
So,
He explained it better than I did.
yeah, and cemetery monuments are agriculture? That's just, I mean, that's where
You're
it's
up, Zach.
I mean, it doesn't appear to me to be.
Leave that
Leave
that to the applicant.
Repairing small engines, I can see being tied to agriculture. You know, wood planing and making things for wood, that could be tied to supporting, you know, farmers in some way, I guess. I'm just wondering about the monuments being specifically tied to, everyone dies, so I can see that everyone needs a monument, but I'm just looking at how it's tied to agriculture.
They are next to the St. Paul's Cemetery out
No, I
there.
understand that, but it's just curiosity.
Yeah, I was just personally going to reiterate the thing that Zach already mentioned about, you know, if they came to add additional uses or something of that nature in the future, they would have to get that reviewed by the Planning Commission. As far as the intent of the RB district, serving the ag community is kind of one of the headline parts of the intended purpose of the RB zoning district, but, you know, again, the full definition of that zoning district is pretty wide-ranging and encompasses more than just serving the farming community. So although that is a primary consideration, the language suggests that it's, you know, for serving the needs of the rural population in addition to the farming community.
So it's very, 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 very malleable.
It's a bit broad, yes.
Yeah, very broad. Thank you. I support it.
Zach, we take a vote or just consent to do a finding of facts?
Yeah, generally you want a consensus to move forward with approval, and
I'm ready
my
to move
office will
forward
draft
with it.
and bring
Okay.
back.
I'm okay moving forward now with it.
We okay? Good.
I agree.
Okay, we have consensus to move forward. There'll be finding of facts and all the documents, and then it'll come back for a formal vote.
Yep, and then we'll bring the written decision back for the formal approval in a couple weeks. We'll work with the county administrator's office on getting that on the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Haldeman? Ms. Fredericks, we good? Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is another public hearing, and this is a public hearing concerning the application for zoning text amendments RZ-24-003. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the proposed text amendment. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. At this time, I'm going to ask Jill Baker, the Planning and Zoning Director, will now introduce the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jill Baker, Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. I have with me here today Kyla Shingleton. She is our newest hire for the department. She is our comprehensive planner. She has done all of the tedious research to all of this and has helped draft these amendments, so I'm just sort of walking her through this process as the first time. So As stated, for this rezoning case, the topic of the amendments are for the use of, the fact that the use of recreational cannabis was legalized effective July 1st, 2023 in the state of Maryland. There have been several bills passed to establish and refine the regulations for the use and distribution of these sources. The purpose of these amendments are to codify the land use aspects of this industry. So we base that upon how the licenses are distributed. Licenses are handled through the Maryland Cannabis Administration. They are broken down into 3 distinct categories: dispensaries, processors, and growers. They further break those 3 categories down into subcategories of what they call standard and micro. Those basically define the intensity of these types of uses. Included in the text amendments are definitions for each category of these licensures. These definitions are basically taken straight out of state law because they are the ones who ultimately have the authority to award those licenses. This year, in March and in June, licenses were awarded by the Maryland Cannabis Association through a lottery process. Per state law, 3 standard dispensary licenses were awarded in Washington County specifically. The remainder of the licenses were awarded based upon regions, so they may not necessarily be located in Washington County. They're allowed in the region. We are in the Western Maryland region, which includes Washington, Allegheny, and Garrett counties. And in that region, licenses were awarded to 2 micro dispensaries, 8 standard processors, 6 micro processors, 4 standard growers, and 6 micro growers. There is a list on the Maryland Cannabis Administration website of who those licenses were awarded to. They do not tell us, though, which county they intend to establish their business in. The location of these facilities are also somewhat governed by state law. A local jurisdiction may not prohibit outdoor cannabis cultivation in areas where hemp farms are permitted. In Washington County, hemp farms are a permitted use. They are an agricultural use in all of our agricultural districts. Therefore, the outdoor cultivation of cannabis would also be permitted. Dispensaries must be permitted in any district where alcohol beverage retailers are permitted. That's the standard by which we have to be held. So if we currently allow an alcohol store in a certain district, then cannabis dispensaries are then also permitted there by right. Now, specific to these dispensaries, there's also some standards in terms of their location from different types of non-compatible uses. So first of all, they have to be located at least a minimum of 500 feet from a pre-existing primary or secondary school, licensed child care center, playground, recreation center, library, public park, or place of worship. This metric cannot be increased through regulatory measure from the county, i.e. the county can't say that they have to be at least 1,000. The state says 500 feet is the standard.
Can I break in just for a second? So that, we've been through this, but 500 feet, that's where it got confusing for everybody.
Yeah.
But it could be 300 feet.
No, the state says they must be 500 feet
So if we can't
away.
increase or decrease, it's 500 period. So something's wrong here.
They can't get closer than 500. Here's what I'm saying is that if that dispensary wherever they want to locate, they have to be at least 500 feet away from one of these.
Okay, I gotta be 500
they-
feet away from Barbara Ingram.
Yeah, if they want to be 1,000 feet, if they want to be 2,000 feet, they can choose to do that.
But we can't tell them to be
But
1,000.
we can't tell them they have to be.
Okay,
We can only tell them they have to be 500 feet away.
yep,
That's all we can tell them.
okay,
Does that
gotcha.
make sense? Okay.
Yep. Sorry, continue.
No, it's very,
I'm
it's
taking notes and
counterintuitive.
my ADD will kick in here, so.
In addition to that, the state law also requires a minimum distance between dispensaries of at least 1,000 feet. Now, there is a caveat in the state law that allows local jurisdictions to increase that distance to up to 1/2 mile. Our proposed amendments take advantage of that caveat to require a minimum of 1/2 mile between any dispensaries. So they not only have to meet that distance requirement, they also have to meet the distance requirement between dispensaries. As included within your agenda packet, a list of where these things are to be located is included in there. These were all reviewed by the Planning Commission as part of their public input meeting, and they have recommended the changes that have been submitted to you today. As of today, we have not received any comments either in favor or against this text amendment from the public or other agencies. That's all I have.
I would think with only 3 dispensaries, you're not gonna get a whole lot of blowback. I think it'd be more, but it sounds like just to confirm, we're mandated on most of these anyway.
Yes, the state pretty much has set some clear language.
Yep, okay.
Need to open it for the public comment. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Jill. At this point in time, we will now open the hearing for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment, please come forward.
Rattle off a bunch of numbers. I printed them, so you have them in writing. Yep, and the sources where the numbers came from.
Okay, thank you.
This only takes 6 people.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kathy Reeder. My husband and I used to own Hempen Hill Barbecue. About a year before COVID shut us down, I was in school for a master's program at University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. So I have a master's degree in medical cannabis. I am here to support the zoning for as is, on the basis that the MCA has put a lot of time and effort and studies into this. Being a medical cannabis educator for the community, it is essential that people have easy access to dispensaries and where their medication comes from. I'll just review the numbers in front of you really quick, just to kind of give you an idea. All of the screenshots from the MCA are included in the packet as well. So to kind of give you an idea, the first 8 months in 2024, cannabis retail sales brought $755.7 million to the state in sales. Of that is generated a 9% SUT tax, and 5% of that SUT, which was $37 million, is distributed between counties and municipalities by the state. The 1.8 million is there. I do not have access to how much came to Washington County, so I'm sure you guys would know. 98 total retail locations are currently As Ms. Baker said, that 3 of them will be coming. There was a social equity round, and I've listed the regions there of what is named as the Western region. So meaning to Washington County, yes, we will be getting, out of the 138 social equity license, we will be getting at least 2 new dispensaries. It looks like 1 fell off the map. They are listed there for you, as well as 20 new grow and processing license to the Western region. And so they don't necessarily have to be in Washington County, but they can be in one of the counties. But I also encourage you to promote and entertain inviting some of these 20 processes and grows to Washington County to add to the 4 that are existing here in the county that have been bringing a lot of income, a lot of jobs, and revenue and opportunities for people of Washington County. I also have in the back of the packet, which I won't have time to read, Dr. Clark, who is a pain management specialist, has written his letter of recommendation for the zoning, along with a retired HPD officer who has also written, and another patient that I work with. Her testimony is there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments here this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kitty Shamus. I happen to be Kathy's mom also. I am a retired realtor. I was a realtor for 40-some years, and I've been a lifelong member or resident of Washington County. I was born and raised in Morgansville. I'm very proud of that. I'm here today to express my support for the proposed zoning ordinance for new cannabis business. As a medical cannabis patient for the past 3 years, I've experienced firsthand the incredible health benefits cannabis can offer. In my case, it has allowed me to stop taking blood pressure medicine and medication for my thyroid, much to the surprise of my doctor, with consistently healthy results. I truly believe that this business provides important alternative health care options, and it is vital that they remain accessible to our county and community. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to come forward? Hearing no other public comments, the public hearing is now concluded, and I'll bring it back to Commissioners' questions, comment period. Yes, the public hearing part is yes.
Only thing I have to say is that I don't, in a way you wonder why we're even talking about it, because most of it's mandated anyway. I don't know what effect, what decision-making we can do here beyond minor tweaks, but it is what it is, so, I mean.
Yeah, I agree with that, Randy, but I did have a question for staff, and they provided the answer, but I think it's good for the public to be aware of it. And that has to do, Jill, if you could, a question about processing plants and how that works. If you read through information available about processing plants, it's not just the odors, but this is processing. But there's still undetermined research about any health effects.
Yes, so we've done some research into the odor and potential health impacts of these type of industries located in the county. It's such a new thing at the moment. There's not a lot of study out there. However, what we have found, and I found an article in particular that was published in the National Institute of Health that acknowledges the fact that these things absolutely have an odor. Processors as well as the growers, because once the plant comes into bloom, is when the odors start. And they say that lasts about 3 to 4 weeks. And then drying it and processing it can also take an additional 3 to 4 weeks. It's my understanding there's been a significant amount of research and development done in the industry to create scrubbers or air filters that start scrubbing the odor out of there. They are still required in these processing facilities and the growing facilities to have air ventilation and recycling and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the licensure. I'm not going to pretend like I understand all of that, but that is required. And as far as the health impacts, a lot of it right now is just anecdotal. People noting the fact that if they're in close proximity for a long period of time, they get the scratchy throat or lung irritations or sometimes headaches. But there's not been enough study done for a long period of time, I think, just because this is so new, to prove that there's any detrimental health impacts at this point. Again, this is still very new, the research is still very fresh, and they will continue to monitor it, I'm sure.
Yeah, so there may be some people that will be affected by it, and
I'm sure there will be,
most
yes.
people won't. And the testimony we heard was mostly about medical uses and the value there, and I think that's widely acknowledged. But there, is also the acknowledgement that, smoking marijuana and the use of THC can increase anxiety, increase depression amongst certain segments of the population. That's in study after study, and can be a major contributing factor to creating psychosis, and not just temporary, and schizophrenia, triggering it and making it a lifelong issue. Okay, that's in reliable studies too, per CDC, et cetera. So, there's the pros and the cons, and I think, we can't control any of that, but it is, the more it's available, the more of those types of issues we're going to be confronting. And besides, smoking, the studies are just beginning. Some of them are immature, some are coming along, but inhaling, smoking, any type of substance, whether it's marijuana, tobacco, et cetera, does create scarring, does create tissue damage in the lungs. So those things are going on, and that's a medical decision, but we have recreational use now. And when you walk down, we can't change any of this, but, recreational use going on right downtown in the ballpark or other places, you smell it when you just are outside Maryland Theater, for example. And there's no enforcement on the public consumption of that. It doesn't pertain to this particular issue, but I just want to make those comments because it does affect the environment. And lastly, the legal transactions of this with dispensaries is one thing, but from my review of what's been going on in places like Colorado, California, et cetera, it has not really had a significant caused a significant decrease in the illegal transactions dealing with marijuana. I don't know what the price point is or the availability, but those illegal transactions and growing and selling outside of this controlled environment continues in those places where it's legal. So those are just some observations. There's nothing we can do about this. I'm generally opposed to it except for controlled medical purposes. But, we have to deal with it, as Randy says, because this is state mandated. That's all I have to say.
Joe, Kyla, just a question, and just for clarity. As my colleagues have said, the state of Maryland is requiring us to incorporate this into our text zoning policy. We're doing the minimum of what they say that we have to do. And when we have one point of discretion, the 1,000 feet or 1/2 mile between dispensaries, we're going with the more restrictive of the 2 points, 1/2 mile between dispensaries. Mm-hmm. That's the only point that's kind of open for our decision. Is that correct?
Yes, at this point.
Okay. And then on the cover sheet here, under the discussion in the first paragraph, the middle sentence, it reads, only medical cannabis facilities have been legalized in the counties bordering states of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So is that to say, since we border Pennsylvania and West Virginia, that facilities for recreational marijuana sales is not allowed in our county? Or what's the meaning of that sentence?
We were just trying to point out that we are surrounded by counties that do not, or counties and states that do not allow recreational use. Well, yeah.
And the sale of it can take place in Washington County?
Are you talking about whether it can cross state borders?
No. Just the way I'm reading that, it says that, in my mind, my interpretation is only medical cannabis sales can take place in Washington County, not recreational sales.
No, I'm sorry, that was not our intent. What we were trying to say was that only medical cannabis is sold in their neighboring states. Washington County would then be the island that does allow sales of recreational.
Okay, understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
No, I mean, it was up to, I mean, Wayne just made, there's one point we got control of, and we did it. I mean, we talked about this for an hour planning, and, you know, I don't know if, there's no reason to kick it down the road. I mean, let's just get it moving on here. I mean.
Consensus?
Yes.
Consensus to move it.
Yep. Okay.
We don't, this doesn't require a written decision, so it can be a vote today or take it under advisement and bring it back for a formal vote, but I believe it would need to be a motion and a second and a
Okay.
vote.
This one's different than the first public hearing.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
motion?
So,
You want to?
this is a double-edged sword, because, for me, but, you know, no offense to the state law, I just is not, you know, I never did agree with it, but who am I? So, but I motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, ready to vote?
I would just say that I disagree as well, Commissioner Wagner, but I'm acknowledging that we live in the state of Maryland, so we have to approve it.
Good point.
Is there a requirement that you have to vote?
In this instance, what's before the Board of County Commissioners is an amendment to the Washington County zoning ordinance. Any of those changes does require a vote of the board.
So the only thing if we didn't vote on this, the law as stated would take effect. But if we did vote on it, we would get the expanded 500 to 1,000 feet.
500 to a half a mile.
And a half.
Or half mile.
That's correct.
Yeah, so,
Basically, even
so
if
we
you
can
did not
enhance
approve
it just
this-
a little bit, so that's what a vote does.
Yes.
Okay. I'll vote for it, fine.
Okay.
Damn, I don't want to vote for it at all.
Okay, we have a
That's why I'm acknowledging we live in Maryland. That's my vote.
motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, next up, Meritus Health, Community Health Initiatives. Dr. Molly Jossi, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and team, and first of all, thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you for all that you do for our community, so we very much appreciate it. I'm joined by Beth, who leads our community health work. Beth Fields-Dowdell is an incredible asset to Meritus and to this community and does so much in leading our variety of community health programs. We have no votes today. We're just asking for you to see some of the work that we're doing in the community. And again, we know we don't do this by ourselves. We do this with amazing partners all throughout our county. And so we're appreciative to work together. And again, we're thrilled to be able to do what we need to do to take care of this community. As I think all of you know, I mean, we have a real important obligation to this region in terms of improving the health of our community. And I think you all know that 2/3 of someone's health status is not medical care. It's determined by everything else in life. It's all the social determinants of health, it's transportation, it's food, it's environmental health. Those things impact your health status more than actual medical care, although obviously medical care is a big piece. So we want to take care of the whole person when we take care of our community. You know our mission, take care of 200,000 people plus. So we are a not-for-profit organization. I just wanted to share this one stat. We track a community benefit report. Every not-for-profit hospitals in the United States tracks on the exact same form and template. The IRS asks us to. So every hospital tracks what's our mission-driven healthcare services, what's our charity care, what's our health professions education, and down the line. So same form, same template. Every year that we do it, we're well over 50 million that we record on this. In fact, 65 million this past year, of which 12 million is for free care. Anybody who comes to our emergency room, anyone who comes to a doctor's office, x-ray lab, if they can't pay, we take care of them. We'll provide financial assistance or it'll be free care. We do that for every single person. That's our mission. The Lown Institute is an independent group. A year ago, they looked at 2,400 not-for-profit hospitals in the United States, 2,400, and they ranked them based on what was their community benefit compared to what would they have paid in taxes. So if you did more in community benefit compared to what you would have paid in taxes, that's a positive. You did your fair share. If you're on the other side, that's a negative. Meritus was number 36 out of 2,400 hospitals in the U.S., top 1.5% in terms of what our community benefit was compared to what we paid in taxes. So one of our values is community obsessed, and we mean that both in philosophy as well as, of course, resources. So I'm going to ask Beth just to share some of the different programs that we've been expanding and growing to take care of the community.
Sure. Thank you, Malik, and thank you, commissioners, for having us today. So as Malik said, we spend over $65 million a year in community benefit for this community. Our mission is to improve the health of our community, and there are so many ways that we're doing that. So today I'd like to share just a few. We provide resources based on social determinants of health. What does the patient say that their issue is? What do they foresee as a problem? And we've made a decision that no patient would miss a medical appointment because of transportation. So with that being said, we have implemented a transportation program to make sure that patients are getting rides to their appointments. We don't want that to be a barrier to care. We're offering over 350 rides a week from patients' homes, from the streets, to Meritus to those appointments. In efforts to remove barriers, we created a mobile health unit. We are on track to see about 2,000 patients this year with our mobile health unit. And really the goal was to remove barriers, meet patients where they are, and take this unit onto the street. It's a multidisciplinary approach. We have community health workers. We have pharmacists that go on the street with us. We take peer support out to make sure that patients have avenues to get that recovery that they may want. We go visit patients in their homes that are readmissions to our hospital. But our real goal is to remove the barrier and that everyone receives care. Take what you need, give what you can is the thought of our Care to Share boxes. We have over $100,000 in food donated annually to our community. We started out with one box in the lobby of our hospital giving non-perishable goods, peanut butter, nuts, anything that the patients could take with them, or someone could pull up and say, you know, I don't really have any food to feed my family, we need a staple. We've now expanded to 3 boxes on our campus. We have one at our lobby, one at our purple entrance of Robinwood, and one at our emergency department. Those are our non-perishable boxes, and then about 1 month ago, we actually implemented perishable boxes. So to help the community with their health, we are making sure that there are fresh fruits and vegetables available to the community. Our employees donate, we donate, anyone can donate, and anyone can take. It's really non-judgmental. Come get what you need, give what you can. We've seen a huge need for the mental health services in our community. With that, we implemented a crisis center and a behavioral health urgent care. Those are both located at the orange entrance of our Robinwood Medical Center, kind of at the middle of Robinwood and Meritus's main campus. Our crisis center is open, our behavioral health urgent care is open Monday through Friday, 8:30 till 6, for anyone ages 6 and up. So if someone's having a mental health emergency and they just need care, they need someone to see a counselor, to see a mental health professional, they will actually get that care right then and there when they need it. And then follow-up care will be scheduled, whether it be at our facility, whether it be at Brook Lane, we'll find the right care for the patient through that. And then our crisis center provides care 24/7. So again, it's at the Orange entrance. Many times we have patients walk in, they're having a behavioral health crisis, an addiction issue, and they just need help. They want help, they're ready for that treatment. They can stay at that crisis center typically around 3 days, up to 3 days, and then we will help them find long-term treatment plans and a long-term placement. We have had an over 70% success rate on the placements of our patients that we have helped get treatment. And then lastly, we've seen an increased number of community members saying they were lonely. So with that, we implemented our Care Caller program. We currently have 347 participants with receiving an average of 15 to 20 minutes of call, a 15 to 20 minute call per week from a volunteer. Those volunteers are our senior leaders. They're our employees. They're volunteers in the community who started out receiving a call and now has said, you know what, I'd like to give back to someone else and call someone. So it's really making those connections. 95% of those participants have said that they are less lonely just because of that 15 to 20 minute call that they're receiving from another human being. So those are just a few of the ways that we are offering care to our community, benefit to our community. And there's so many more things that we're doing that, you know, you may see out in the community every day.
Beth, thank you so much. I just want to highlight a couple of things. Our complimentary rides, the number one place they go to is to the cancer center. So if you think about it, it's not just for going for regular, it's to the cancer center. And number two is physical therapy. And again, how important those services are for your long-term health. On the urgent care walk-in for mental health, there's only a few of these in the state of Maryland and in the country. So this is relatively new, and anybody can walk in from 6 and up for any immediate need for mental health. And as you know, it's the #1 community health need. And we're proud to partner with Brook Lane, our affiliate in that effort. And our Care Caller program, we actually just published that in a peer-reviewed journal, so you could see that paper. And again, I think it shows how little things can go a long way in just making a connection with a human being. So we, again, thank you for all you do, and just wanted to share our work and open to any questions.
I have a question, Malik, and thank you for everything Meritus is doing. And your staff is always great and full of lots of information. And I know you work with a lot of groups, whether it's the groups you outline here or different boards and commissions, you know, and you're very open, whether it's dealing with human trafficking and how you tweak things in order to be able to help people alert you to a problem. So thank you so much for being so socially conscious. One question you and I have talked about before, Meals on Wheels, Commission on Aging, and you have a unique position in the community because your meals are automatically healthy, the way you prepare them and everything, and you have a capability there. And I know you've talked with the Commission on Aging, but with everything that you do, I still don't understand why we can't get over the hump on you working with the Commission on Aging to provide a price point that would be able to satisfy the 400 Meals on Wheels customers that are unique each week. Because you're trying to do a lot, and it's one area that I think you could really be uplifting for the whole community, because who prepares it matters, especially at a price point. And compared to other places, we don't seem to be able to get a price point that's equivalent to some other counties, because we don't have someone here that can prepare it. The school system got out of that with the COVID shutdowns, and we just haven't been able to find someone that can do what you have the capability to do. So I would implore you to take another look at that, to get with the Commission on Aging, and maybe with me, or Wayne here is on the board too, the higher board, I think, right, Wayne? Aren't you?
I wouldn't say higher board, but they're both important.
I'm on the advisory board, you're on the board. Okay, so
Well, Commissioner Harvey and Kiefer, we will take that as a commitment to follow up again. We've had conversations, as you know, but we'll follow up again. Really appreciate that. Absolutely.
I'll just piggyback off of that if I can. I actually spoke to a family in Hancock over the weekend that are on a waiting list for Meals on Wheels, and how important it would be to that individual who's homebound. And Meals on Wheels, I think, is a very important service in our community for our older residents who are homebound. And you mentioned the Care Caller program. I know I was first made aware of that through a board meeting I was at the Commission on Aging, and one of the afflictions that I guess impacts seniors aside from hunger is loneliness. And that can have a detrimental impact on their physical well-being as well, as you mentioned. So I appreciate Commissioner Harvey's comments there and acknowledgement that the Commission on Aging has tried to bring the cost of Meals on Wheels food down, and you could be a tremendous partner in that and add to your list of accolades here. I would certainly give you kudos for that. I would also like to just point out, thank you for your outreach in two of our outlying communities, Hancock and Cascade. You both opened up offices in both of those locations recently, and that's had a tremendous impact. Are you rotating in specialty practices as well? It's not just general family health care?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. In Hancock, not just primary care, but we have GI there and cardiology, and as we continue to add specialties, we're going to rotate more out there, because it is more than primary care is the need, and Cascade and other places as well. We know, again, access is a big barrier to quality health care, so the more we can get out to people, the better.
Yeah. One thing I think about in our community, it's great that you have the complimentary rides, and there's certainly cases where that's needed, as you mentioned. I think in our community, we can work best rather than telling our citizens, hey, you have to come here to your county seat if you want to partake in something that we have in Washington County. Bringing that service to their community, that's important. I think that makes us a better county and a better community as a whole when we can do that.
And the mobile clinic actually does a lot of that as well. So.
Yeah, good. One thing, if I could just ask, something that we've received some emails on, some concerns about 15-minute doctor's appointments, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but in the last couple of months, we've received some, off and on concerns about I guess maybe in those specialty practices, limiting to a 15-minute appointment. Anything you can shed some light on that for us?
Absolutely, and of course, anyone is always welcome to reach out to me personally. I'm happy to answer everything. We do not actually restrict any minute appointments in specialty practices.
Okay.
And in the primary care, we have 20-minute appointment slots. But it's up to the provider to decide how they want to use the slots. All we're doing is actually saying they're 20-minute slots. So if you want to see one patient over 2 20 minutes or 3 20 minutes, you're welcome to. If you want to see 2 in 1 20 minute, it's up to the provider to make that decision.
Okay.
But we're happy, again, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, very good.
Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do in the community.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you. Great presentation. I think most of us were aware of all that, but it always good for the public to know all your contributions to our community and how well you run things. I've told you before, the older I get, the more time I spend, and everybody I know spends in one of your facilities. I love you, but not that much. But no, it's you guys are great. Thank you,
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up is HCC Dental Hygiene Program, recognizing Dental Hygiene Month. Dr. Clover, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's
toothbrush, I
that
bet.
time of year again to ensure that you all have great oral health over here at the County Commission. Give this.
No, thank you, sir.
And I don't have as many people in the audience today, so Ms. Gordon, I'm going to leave the extras here with you, and you can make sure that maybe Jonathan Horowitz and Linda Spence or some other folks here, Washington County government, have clean teeth.
Thank you. We'll do that.
I think I saw you giving free teeth cleanings out there the other day, weren't you?
Well, we actually are. I'll tell you about that in a second. I wasn't. But I actually went and got a free tooth, not a free tooth cleaning, went and got a tooth cleaning this past month. And I will tell you, because I wanted to experience it, I just want you to know that that was probably the most comprehensive tooth cleaning that I have ever had. Those students really work you over, and it was a good experience to do. I just wanted to let you know, yes, this is Oral Hygiene Month, and so wanted to give you, as I've come to kind of do annually, give you a little bit of report about one of our stellar programs, which is our dental hygiene program, and let you know that coming to you to ask you to refer people to our dental clinic must be working, because between January and this upcoming November, we have scheduled over 1,896 appointments, and we have served over 1,000 patients. And so that has been fantastic. That's great. We only have 38 students in the program. So I always say we need more. So if you can continue to refer people, you know, it's great if they have a relationship with their dentist. I don't want to upset that, but if you've got folks who are indigent or don't have dental care and need some primary care, we're here, and we'll be glad to work with them. We've also started to work with the Community Free Clinic. As you all know, you approved an ART grant a couple of years ago for us to replace our dental chairs when we expanded the program. We're taking two of our older chairs and giving them to the free clinic, and we're going to actually start doing some dental hygiene clinicals over there as well, working with that population. Next month, in November, we're going to recognize our veterans, and we will give 100 veterans free dental appointment. So all they need to do is just come make their appointment and come by. So it has been, that program continues to be very strong, a very long waiting list to get into it.
I was just getting ready to ask, there's a big waiting list here.
It is. I mean, the catalog says you only need about a 2.5 to get into the dental hygiene program, and that is what the minimum amount we require. The realistic number is you need to be well up into the 3-point GPA, or you're going to get accepted in there. Some students will opt to go into the dental assisting program instead, which is a shorter one-year program where they can go and work alongside the dentist in the dental office, and then they can either then transition into the hygiene program, or they can go on into that career field as well. So we have both options for our students. Just wanted to come by and thank you all for all the support you give us, and hope that you have a great year of oral health.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Klauber, before you go, and I say this every time you come, just a shout out to my niece, Sunny Shriver, who went through your program. I think she was on your brochure at one time. I don't know if you've updated that brochure. I hope not. But she was able to gain employment at a dental office here in Hagerstown. She loves her job, and I think she makes pretty good money too. I don't know for sure, but she's happy with that.
Absolutely. I can tell you, I think she does. You all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave these.
See you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is community organization funding, available funding, and service priority area allocations. Kelsey Mace. Kelsey, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Chief Financial Officer. During the August 27th meeting, staff had presented service priority areas for the FY26 Community Organization Funding application for approval. Staff was directed to have the COF committee revisit the percentages. So Nicole did reach out, and only 2 members of the committee responded. One member stated to keep the percentages the same, and the other suggested reducing domestic violence by 10% in order to increase recreation and seniors each by 5%. So on your ARF, there is a table showing what they were whenever they were presented in August, and what they would be if you took on the recommendation of one committee member. I would like to remind you that the COF committee does have the latitude to move 20% of the approved amounts from one service priority to another during the application review process. And it would be my suggestion to keep the percentages as they were.
Move motion to approve. As suggested.
Motion and second, ready to vote?
Just a comment. I think it's important for historical context to mention, when the Commission on Aging was transferred from the community organization funding pool of funds to a line item in our budget, that was the reason their percentage was reduced. We're funding seniors just through the budget process rather than through the grant process. So if maybe you could have that go back to the committee to explain why that percentage is what it is.
Sure, and I can ask the committee to pay more attention on like where the applications are coming from for suggestions for the next year's priority areas as well.
Okay. We got a motion and a second, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, 5-0.
And I would also say arts and culture, I think, was reduced for the same reason. When the Museum of Fine Arts was pushed to a line item in our budget, I think their percentage came down a little bit, too.
Yeah, I think you're correct on that.
Okay.
Motion to
Motion
recess?
for recess, 20 minutes, plus minus.
Oh, there's no motion.
Okay.
anybody back here?
Okay, they are now. We're on air. Okay, FY 2025 Program Open Space Annual Program Revision. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning. Andrew Eschelman, Director of Public Works. I'm here before you seeking a motion to approve a revision to the FY 2025 Program Open Space Project List to include Boonesboro Schaefer Park basketball resurfacing, as was recommended by the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board. So if you recall, each year, per POS guidelines, the Board of County Commissioners is required to adopt the annual POS program. The town of Boonesboro is requesting a revision to what was an approved FY24 POS project. And so essentially administratively, in order for them to move forward the project, that would need to be added to the FY25 program. In the FY24 program, there was a project that included $63,000 in POS funds for the town of Boonesboro to resurface and convert one of the basketball courts to pickleball courts. Since that time, they've had some internal leadership changes as well as priorities, and the town came back requesting a scope change to the project to instead resurface 2 existing basketball courts, both in Schaefer Park. The town never submitted their FY24 application, so essentially what we need to do is roll those funds over to the current fiscal year to allow them to move forward with that project. This was discussed with the Recreation and Parks Board at the September 5th meeting and unanimously approved by them. Are there any questions?
Motion to approve the revision.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is Sidling Hill Overlook Park Budget Adjustment. Andrew?
Andrew Eschelman, Director of Public Works. I'm seeking a motion to approve the budget adjustment in the amount of $175,000 from the general CIP reserves to a newly created Sidling Hill Overlook Park account for the renovation of the Sidling Hill Overlook. The renovation of the Sidling Hill Overlook, which is on Scenic Route 40, was discussed at previous Commissioner and Hancock Town meetings. The overlook was originally constructed by the state, but closed and included in the road conveyance to the county in 1987. The facility was reopened by the county to the public approximately in 2015. However, since then, no substantial investment or maintenance of the area has occurred. Staff evaluated the existing conditions as well as received input on the desired outcome, and which includes in scope but not limited to resurfacing of the existing lot with asphalt, picnic shelter construction, as well as new seating. There's some drainage structures that need replaced, adding lighting, some view shed clearance to expand the view, signage and landscaping. The cost estimate assumes the majority of the work would be done by county staff, but we would use contractors for specialized services. Following the completion of the work, the overlook would be managed as part of the county's park system and included in our inventory. Are there any questions?
I think we also had a request of a sign to be put up.
Correct. That's, yes, included, would be included in the work. I know we visited, looking at not only the park sign, but also highlighting the attraction off of I-68.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion second. Wayne?
I'm sorry, I'm a little slow to act here. Thank you. I just want to thank Commissioners Klein and Barr went up with me on separate occasions to take a look at this location. And Andrew, you were there, Danny, Hickson, another fellow, I can't think of his.
Ben Gazora.
Ben, okay, I appreciate everyone's effort to, what we're doing here is we're creating a new park in Washington County. It was existing, it was in a little bit of disrepair, but we're creating a new park in Washington County, and that's an exciting thing. And I think you have this that bookends our western part of the county, the park up in Cascade, Fort Ritchie, that bookends the eastern part of the county. And of course, our entire southern border is the C&O Canal National Historic Park. So I think this is exciting. The furthest park west, the furthest you can get, I think, in Washington County.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill is the Sidling Hill Creek, which is the boundary for Allegheny County in Washington.
Yeah. So thanks for your effort on this. What kind of a time frame are we looking at?
So we'll look to get some of the work started this winter. I mean, certain things like lighting we had already started on previously, but again, trying to fill in the gaps with when we have staff available to do it. Again, highways, parks, they have other projects and priorities. So our hope is by the spring, we would see some more substantial improvements up there. But it'll happen gradually in phases again, since we're trying to keep the costs lower and use our own staff. And yes, just to highlight kind of the bookends of both corners of the county, both ends, we are also looking to do some improvements up at High Rock, just to make you aware. They would be smaller in scope, but just to do some things up there. It's another popular attraction in Vista.
It's interesting that now that you mention it, both those far west, far eastern parks showcase the view shed that we have here in our community. That's
Yes.
great.
Beautiful,
Absolutely.
beautiful view.
I'd just like to thank Commissioner Kiefer. You led the charge on this. You're very humble, and I know that when we were in Hancock, I guess our joint meeting, you said, would you ride along? And I'm like, yeah, let's go look at it. Let's do it. So
Yep.
thank you.
Well,
Thank you
thanks
for your charge
support.
on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, correct? Ready to vote? All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is Administrative Office of the Court's Security Funding, approval to accept MOU modification of additional grant award.
Good morning, Richard Lesh, Office, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management. My partner didn't show up, so I'm all by myself. I am here today to ask for a motion to approve the acceptance of additional grant funds of $15,039.99 for a total amount of $57,959.99 for Circuit Court security funding. The Circuit Court was previously awarded and an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the Administrative Office of Courts and Board of County Commissioners of Washington County was approved for $42,920 for the installation of ballistic protection for doors and walls, 2 offices in the Clerk of the Court's office. The Memorandum of Understanding has been modified with an increase of the $15,039.99 to a total of $57,959.99 to cover the cost of this project. We did have the MOU was changed recently to include the vendor listed in the modified MOU is contingent upon future board approval. And that's it.
Okay. Discussion, motion?
Looks like this is for bullet-resistant barriers at the courthouse. Just wanted to point that out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Call for the vote. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is rejection of request for proposal, PUR 1693, event planning consultant/agency.
Morning, Rick Gray, Director of Purchasing. Coming before you is rejection of request for proposal 1693, event planning consultant agency. Recommended motion to take action in the best interest of the county to request a proposal for the event planning consultant agency be rejected due to the proposal did not provide the requested information and request approval to re-advertise a revised document. As you can see in the brief, it lists the number of individuals who download the document. We only received one proposal, and I'm asking the board to allow me to reject that proposal and re-advertise with a different scope of work.
Discussion?
Rick, can you share with us what the cost was or what was budgeted or?
I cannot share the cost because we did not get to the price because we rejected the proposal, so the price is not revealed.
Okay. Anything you can share with us about what something like this might cost?
I wouldn't want to speculate on that. I know that I'm talking with the vendors after the proposals have been issued. This is a large task, so the objective this time is to break it down into smaller segments, try to get it to be manageable, instead of having one big, large event. It will still be a large event, but break it down in segments and have sponsors and whatnot to assist.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, the plan wasn't to actually have an event planner at this point. My department is going to take that on and be the event planner for the 250th, and we will, if need be, put RFPs out for the different segments of the event. But we didn't feel that we needed an actual event planner at this point. This is the second time it's being rejected, so I don't anticipate on actually putting it back out for bid for an actual event planner.
What kind of segments are you talking about for a specific part of our 250th celebration?
Yes, so this was mainly for the capstone event, and then we are also going to be planning an event for September 6th of 2026, because it's the 250th of Washington County as well that year. So the different parts of the event could be like the sound stage, booking bands, like a kid zone, like different activities like that. We also plan on having like a historic building where we have some videos and possibly a reenactment. One of the other parts of the event, we plan on we're hoping to have a drone show, possibly with some pyro drones or some fireworks. We might be looking into that too. So just different parts. We're just going to be the actual event planners at this point.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of confidence in your department that we can do that, and the others that are helping you outside. We host dignitaries quite often. We have a lot of large events in our community, and I think we have the expertise locally to do it. Just my thought.
Thank you.
Motion to reject.
Second.
Okay, motion is second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Okay, thank you. Next item is intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 24-0159, 2 Mack chassis cab dump trucks.
Again, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Zane Rao, Deputy Director of Highways.
The subject before you is intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 24-0159 for 2 Mack chassis cab dump trucks. Move to authorize by resolution the Highway Department to purchase 2 Mack dump trucks from Baltimore Truck Center Incorporated of Hagerstown, Maryland. The cost of those trucks are $282,250 apiece for a total sum of $564,500, and to utilize another jurisdiction's contract that was awarded by Sourcewell to Mack Trucks Incorporated. The trucks that are being replaced are between the age of 15 and 17 years old and meets the county's guideline for replacement. And the Code of Public Law does allow for this board to participate in a bid that was forfeited by another jurisdiction. And there is a cost savings by doing so. As you can see, there is funding for this purchase. And you have the attachment from Baltimore Truck Center's quote. Questions?
Second.
Motion is second on the floor for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item is police recruitment and retention grant approval to accept awarded funding.
Richard Lesh, Grant Manager, Office of Grant Management.
Cody Miller, Grant Manager of Washington County Sheriff's Office.
And we are here today to request a motion to approve the acceptance of funding awarded under the fiscal year 25 Police Recruitment and Retention Grant Program from the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services in the amount of $46,607. The Police Recruitment Retention Program Grant Program provides funding to recruit and retain qualified sworn law enforcement officers, particularly for expenses that are not covered under local budgets. The Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services has awarded the Washington County Sheriff's Office $446,607 in grant funding. The program will provide deputies with financial bonuses that will assist with retention and show the deputies that the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Youth and Victim Services values and appreciates law enforcement community. There is a small fiscal impact. The grant will provide Washington County Sheriff's Office with the $46,000 plus for retention recruitment objectives. Since the state does not pay for fringe benefits, the employee portion of the fringe benefits will be deducted from the deputies' bonuses, and the county will be obligated to pay the employer portion of the fringe benefit.
Hang on a minute. I have a question, but I lost it. What did you say, deducted from what?
The Social Security, Medicare, that's normally deducted, the employer matches that, so the county would still be obligated for that, and that will still be deducted from the employee's bonus. 7%. Because the state doesn't pay for fringe benefits.
Am I missing something here, or does that sound okay? I'm thinking,
So if the retention bonus is, let's just say $5,000, the employee wouldn't get exactly $5,000. They would still need to pay for their FICA and Medicare.
Correct.
Is what you're saying?
Just their portion, not the county.
And the employee, we would pay for the employer portion, they would pay for their portion. So they would get like $4,600 some dollars.
so it's not really penalizing the deputy or soon-to-be or?
No, no, it's just a required tax benefit that we're required to withhold.
Okay.
Motion, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion is second on the floor for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is property acquisition at Kending Lane.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Mose, Real Property Administrator.
Dave Mason, Deputy Director with Solid Waste.
Recommended motion is moved to approve the purchase of property located on Kending Lane for future landfill operations and approve an ordinance approving said purchase and authorize execution of the necessary documentation to finalize the acquisition and approve a budget adjustment for this acquisition. An agreement of sale was executed to purchase approximately 15 acres on Kending Lane for $195,000. Property was listed for $219,000 on the open market, and county staff negotiated a price of $195,000 to purchase the property. The land will be used for future organic composting or other ancillary uses, and the budget adjustment would be coming from operating reserve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Second. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Sandy Hook water supply agreement.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Bradshaw, Director, Environmental Management. I'm here today requesting approval of the attached Sandy Hook water supply agreement. The county approached the city of Brunswick to see if the city would be willing to supply drinking water to the community of Sandy Hook if the output of the existing wells fell below the demand. The city of Brunswick reviewed our request and responded that they would be willing to supply drinking water to the community of Sandy Hook. Brunswick and county staff then proceeded to work together on preparing an agreement that outlines the responsibilities of each party. The agreement is attached for your review and consideration.
Questions, comments?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. We have a second.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, since our last discussion,
Nothing changed, no.
nothing in there weird.
Nope.
Okay, we have motion and second, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thanks, Mark. Next item is Joint Sewer Service Agreement, JSSA Amendment Number 2.
Mark Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management. I'm here today to request approval of the Second Amendment to the JSSA. In the 80s, Mack Truck gave the Boy Scouts of America property on Crestwood Drive. Unbeknownst to both the county and city, Mack Truck allowed BSA to connect their sewer into Mack Truck's internal sewer collection system. BSA has sold their property, and Mack Truck has asked them to disconnect their sewer from Mack Truck's sewer and connect directly into county sewer. It was at this time that the county and city realized that the BSA property was not included in the service area of the JSA, even though it has been connected for over 30-plus years. Both municipalities want to move forward with adding the BSA property into the service area of the JSA. And the second part of the agreement amendment is the properties within the JSA are currently billed by the city of Hagerstown. The agreement allows the city to turn the water service off for non-payment of sewer bills. When we transfer flow back from the city to the county, the city will lose its authority to disconnect water services for non-payment of the sewer bill for these properties affected by the flow transfer agreement. The city has requested the authority to extend 1 year from the flow transfer date that they can collect on any outstanding bills. The county attorney has reviewed addendum number 2, and the city's attorney has also reviewed addendum number 2, and both of them are in agreement with this addendum. And the property in green there, not green, sorry, the property with the arrow is actually the Boy Scout property, which is just a little triangle shape up there on Crestwood. Any questions?
No questions. I motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Yeah, second. Sound like someone was in a mess there to me.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. 5-0. Okay, PR 24, hiring practices.
Chip's on his way down. PR 24 hiring practices, we are recommending that we make some revisions to this policy. It was last updated in November of 2017. Some of the changes include updating the recruiting procedure to reflect what we're actually doing in the Human Resources Department. Changes to responsibilities for the employment process and background checks, updating some residency requirements to show that only the county administrator and emergency management director is required to live in the county, and employment of relatives. We have reduced the scope of what that entails to reflect that it's immediate family members versus including extended family members as that of a relative. Employment of relatives also requires that the Board of County Commissioners approve any relationships where there would be a direct subordinate supervisor relationship between the employee and his supervisor. And I think that's, and then the last part of it would be any positions for grade 13 and above. We approved approximately a year ago that positions grade 13 and above, I'm sorry, grades 12 and below only need to be approved by the county administrator and the director of human resources. So we're codifying that in the actual PR 24. And then the last portion of it would be to reflect that grades 13 and above, if we have a vacant position, we don't need to get approval to advertise for that position if it is already approved in the budget as a funded position. New position requests or changes to positions would still require board approval before advertising for it. Filling those positions would still require board approval. We just are speeding up the process to advertise.
So if that would streamline a little bit instead of waiting for a meeting, is that what you're saying?
Correct. It would create a little more efficiencies here.
Motion to approve.
Oh, wait a minute, I ain't quite ready yet. I'm looking still.
Second for discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
And most important line there is the county administrator has the authority to approve the recommendations to advertise, hire, to overlap, promote, all those activities that we typically bring you that you guys are a little frustrated by because we've already approved it in the budget. You've seen it before. So it's really administrative behind the scenes stuff that we're trying to prepare before we
Explain
put on.
the employee hiring thing with the supervisor,
And the relatives.
the relative.
Can I explain that? Absolutely. So we went from, previously, we had a very broad description of relatives. It included cousins, nieces, nephews, things of that nature. So we've changed that to be direct family members and direct reporting relationships. So now we're just talking about parents and children, husbands and wives, things of that nature. The other thing that we introduced into that update was that we could make an exception, you could make an exception to that policy whenever you saw appropriate. And so you'd be the only body that could make an exception to that particular policy.
My husband and wife could still work for the county, but not in the same department.
Correct. Couldn't directly report to one another, correct.
But if just hypothetically, what Jeff just said, but we could, as a body, say they can.
Hypothetically, if you wanted to review it and you said for whatever reason you felt it was okay and you could be comfortable with the relationship, then you could make that exception.
Gotcha. So basically, you've streamlined a little bit, you've left a little bit of discretion for, it's not all.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was an old policy. It hadn't been updated since 2017. And so the hiring practices hadn't referred to the forms we use today, the online process we use today, who was responsible for what. We updated all those pieces of the policy.
And the county administrator can do what now? Extra, or you mentioned some, I forget what you said now.
So I believe about a year ago, the board approved streamlining grades 12 and under, that the
Right.
county administrator and the director of human resources can approve those hires. Grades 13 and above still require approval of the Board of County Commissioners. So although we've been practicing that for the last year, it hasn't actually been incorporated into the policy until now.
And the main difference is, even though you still approve the offers at grade 13s and above, all the prep in advance of that, so the advertising, the preparation, the requisition approval, the offer itself, the initial interview is all approved by the county administrator and myself. We would still bring you the offer for the grades 13 and above.
The question about hiring, someone, hypothetical, someone gives their 2-week notice to leave. When do we begin advertising a job? After the 2 weeks they left, or do we begin advertising the day they give their notice so we can speed up the process?
So it depends upon the manager. I would prefer, my recommendation to any manager that would ask me that same question would be as soon as possible, so that we can get to the hiring process. So there's at least, sometimes the managers want an overlap between the outgoing and the incoming person. Sometimes they don't. But even then, I would still say, as fast as we can get through the hiring process, we want to get to the place that we can make a decision whether or not we want them to kind of have an overlap or not. And that's also, by the way, part of the reason that we're doing what we're doing, because sometimes just getting on the agenda to kind of get the review for you all to say, absolutely, can you go ahead and backfill that job, is something we can take care of a little bit faster.
Yeah, you got a first and a second, and I'm okay. I've answered all my questions.
Okay, we good? We have a motion and a second on the floor, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, Chip.
Next item on our open meeting is potential legislative items.
Thank you, President Barr. Zachary Kiefer, County Attorney. This matter is for discussion only, and this is a discussion on the potential issues the county may like to see addressed during the next session of the General Assembly. Next regular session of the General Assembly begins in January of '25, and so far the following items have been identified as potential items of interest, but also this is an opportunity for the commissioners to include any other items they might want to see in the form of proposed legislation. So I'll just read through this list very quickly. The Washington County Circuit Courthouse replacement or an enhancement renovation, funding for air traffic control tower, at Hagerstown Regional Airport, the Regional Water Authority study, state funding for priority transportation projects, including but not limited to I-81, the Route 11 bridge in Williamsport, and the I-70 Route 65 interchange. And I do have a sort of a late addition to this legislative priorities list would be a revision to the Washington County section of the tax property article as it relates to tax credits and a tax incentive program. The proposed state legislation or legislation at the state level would add renovated properties to the credit eligibility, change the percentages of those tax credits and the duration of the tax credit program. And those are related to the job creation and capital investment real property tax credit ordinance that is under Jonathan and his department's purview. So that's just, again, sort of for the board's consideration. If they have anything else to add, go ahead.
I have one thing that I'd like to add. We have received a request from our delegation to include the county's position related to Blueprint. I believe we would mirror the MACO's position that I mentioned earlier in my staff comments. So I'd like to make sure that we include that in our pre-legislative session and to formulate a position letter related to the challenges we're facing related to funding and extending some of those deadlines so that we can make it a little more affordable.
Isn't the other 23 jurisdictions going in on that too with MACO?
The majority of them are. I'm not sure if all 23 are, but the majority are.
Okay, I thought so.
I would also like us to consider one of our items to be funding for one of the many projects we have down at the Public Safety Training Center. Based on the last two visits of Governor Moore to our Public Safety Training Center, not only did he, but this last time, at least 6 or 8 of the staff and other members of the Assembly all expressed interest in how important that was. And again, I repeat, it's not, the academic side is fine, and that's to train those people to be able to put out fires, save property, but we need the operational training that goes outside with training, the tactical village, the defensive driving, in order to train these volunteers to go home alive. And I'd like to have that on there because that was very well received down there with that visit.
That item, along with the items we have listed here and a couple others, are also included on the Washington County Community Coalition's lobbying list, priority list. So we already have Public Safety Training Center firefighting propane props included on there. So I believe it would be appropriate to include that project here as well.
That reinforces our request.
I agree. Are you looking for a specific project or whatever they may provide?
We have a list that we could go down the list that's be done. There's a vision or a statement or whatever that we can find one to designate that for.
Yeah,
I think general, that's why I brought that up today.
Yeah. I think this is all sort of a general.
I think they would need us to include a specific project. So we'll get the next project on that list and include that.
Thank you, Wayne, for bringing that up.
Any other discussion? Motion to approve these 7 agenda items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion is second on the floor. Ready to vote? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. At this time, I need a motion to go into closed session for the following reasons and outlined in more detail on the agenda cover sheet: to discuss confidential personnel matters, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto, and thirdly, to consider a matter that concerns the proposal for a business to locate, expand, or remain in this county and state. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session to